Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the HerStory Online Summit, Day 8 and Session 2. It gives me great pleasure to share the HerStory platform with you, a platform that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'm the founder and global curator of the Her Circle movement. And I'm really honored to be joining you today from beautiful Melbourne, Australia. To begin with, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations people who are joining us from around the world today. Over the next few days, we will dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of remarkable women. These are stories of courage, resilience, creativity, and leadership. Stories that remind us that when women rise, communities and nations rise with them. This summit is more than just a series of talks. It's a global circle, a space for inspiration, connection, and transformation. Together, we will share knowledge, ignite conversations, and plant seeds of change. So I invite you to go and grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and open your heart and allow yourself to be inspired by the incredible journeys that we will hear from today. This is Her Story because every woman's voice matters and every story has got the power to change the world. Our first speaker coming in from Europe is an incredible woman who I met very recently, but I feel like I have made a new best friend. She's born in Denmark, living in Luxembourg. Charlotte has got a background in financial services and fintech. She's the founder of FintoCat, the co-founder and partner and advisor for local and global startups. She's a mentor for entrepreneurs and also the founder of Any Allergy Food, a community for living better with food challenges. Charlotte, I know we have just recently met. It gives me great pleasure to have you here today, sharing your incredible story. The stage is yours, my sister. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me on this morning for me, very early morning for me, but afternoon for everyone else. So I'm very, very pleased to be here. I think the whole idea of sharing stories is something that we all need to work very hard for, making sure that doesn't get lost in these online seemingly connections that people have with social media. So I love cherries. They are my favorite fruit. These black, ripe, a little bit tart fruits. The season here in Europe is very, very short. But when it's there, I will go to my local market and I will carefully select 10 cherries. Not half a pound, not half a kilo, no nothing. 10 cherries. And I carry it home like a prized possession. I wash them very carefully, leave them on the kitchen table to dry, and stay in that kitchen. And then I brew my rooibos tea. I liter a pitcher, and once it's cooled quite a bit, I take my 10 carefully curated cherries and I dump them into my tea. And I leave it for 24 hours in the fridge. And then I drink the tea and throw out my cherries. I'm a food allergic person and I suffer from chronic food irritated bowel syndrome. And fructose, unfortunately, is one of my big triggers. This is my story. My name is Charlotte Christensen, as Gertrude just introduced. I am based in Luxembourg. I've been here for quite a number of years, but in between leaving Denmark and moving here, I lived all over the world. I've been eating chicken fingers in China and fish eyes in Singapore, and I have never, ever, ever had to worry about anything to do with food. It didn't even occur to me that people could have problems. My story starts in 2004 on a wonderful summer's day in Luxembourg. heat wave in a nice restaurant. It was because of the heat that I wanted something light. And lo and behold, I chose the local fish, whatever that was that evening. I've forgotten, thankfully. And I got food poisoning really, really badly. After a week, I went to the doctor, and the doctor gave me antibiotics thinking I got the virus. And that started a 10-year downward cycle for my health that just kept going and going. I tried everything. Homeopathic medicine, leaving out this, leaving out that. I had the fructose test and the lactose test in the hospital without any real results. And I gave up every time. Because during this time, I was also working 80-hour weeks, traveling 30 weeks a year, and having a blast in a really high-paced, fast-paced fintech environment. I loved every minute of my international work managing project teams. But my health didn't. So by the time we hit 2014, 2015, I was brittle. Within a year, my husband ended up in hospital several times with really bad health. We lost my father and 3 of our friends within a month of each other, independently. I got 3, there is something about that 3. I got 3 respiratory infections within a month, and my doctor said, stop, enough is enough. Now we need to find out what is really going on. And that started my doctor's journey of finding out what was really going on. I thought it was maybe irritated bowel syndrome, maybe something that I just needed to give a rest. So I gave up my job. I moved home. I started my own company, Fintocat. It took me a while to find out what I really wanted to do with it, but I got home. I stopped traveling so much, and I got a very, very good and very, very stubborn doctor who tested everything. And I thought, it'll be easy. There are certainly some things that will not be a problem at all, including anything to do with grain. And lo and behold, that test ended up the worst. So I'm allergic to wheat, baker's yeast, and buckwheat, and several other weird things. And as I was going through this whole circle, it actually took until about 2020 before we had sort of mapped out everything that was wrong. We don't find any more allergies, thankfully. I have now had to learn how to deal with the ones I do have. But if I had reacted sooner, maybe it wouldn't have ended up being quite this myriads of allergies that are difficult to manage. So my urge with telling you my story is obviously that if just a few of you will get to the situation that you do have irritated bowel every time you eat, or you don't feel well, that you will start taking the actions. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. We will go back in a second. By 2019 or 20, I thought I had it all under control until the time where we had our wedding anniversary, and it was during COVID. So all we could do was going to Germany and having a nice lunch overlooking the river. It was a beautiful summer's day. And I chose the one thing on the menu that I could eat. It's not the easiest thing in Germany to find allergy-friendly food. For me, at least, for my allergies. And what happened was that I had some rice and chicken, not the terribly inspiring dinner or lunch for a wedding anniversary. And on the way home, I got terribly sick. I was sick for 3 days. And the reason was that soy sauce actually contains wheat. It wasn't supposed to, but somehow it does. So when I started any allergy food, it was because I was sick and tired of being taken by surprise all the time. And I was sure that other people would have the same issues. I don't want my food allergies to be a matter of finding a religion that fits me. It doesn't, from a food perspective and a recipe perspective. So any allergy food is a safe space with 3 recipes with loads of tips and tricks to help you navigate food challenges. I don't mind which kind of food allergies. I don't mind whether it's food allergies, in sensitivities, or intolerances. There is a difference between the three, which is far too much to get into today, but there is a difference. You can handle at least a little bit if it's a sensitivity. You can't, there is no way back once it's allergies. And that's why I'm urging you to act for your own health. And that's what I'm trying to do now with any allergy food, to offer individual support, workshops. I'm not the person who's going to do online cooking shows. I'm not that person. I want to get closer to the individual person and make a difference in their life. There's plenty of great cooks out there doing that. And I am very worried, as I said, about our food chain. I'm very worried about this becoming a religion. It's become very popular to be a vegetarian, and I have no problem with that. But don't cut anything out of your diet unless you have to, because you could end up in terrible problems. I had a friend once who decided to be a vegetarian and thought that that was, in Holland, a matter of eating loads of fruits and vegetables. And she ended up almost losing her teeth because he wasn't getting the necessary protein. So every time you make these choices about your food, it has consequences somewhere. So this is where I can support you. But we, especially women, have a tendency to take care of the whole family rather than our food. And our food is becoming worse, in my view. And that's why I want this to be talked about, because we need to start making these choices on what we buy. It is important to check the labels, not just with allergies, and you can get terribly sick, but also to make some decisions about how many chemicals you want to feed yourself and your family. Every single one of them have consequences for your health. And I'm not saying that we can give up our lives and stop working and just go home and grow on the land. That's not what I'm saying. But trying to find a balance. That's the mission I'm on. I'm meeting so many people in my now work. I never did go back to corporate. I actually run my own company, Fintucat, and I'm working mostly as a mentor, advisor, co-founder, and teacher in entrepreneurship. I focus very much on financial sustainability, but also on social entrepreneurship. But I do use every single opportunity I have to talk about any allergy food. So I do invite you to have a look, see if some of the recipes can give you good ideas, and make your food, even if you're allergic, a little bit more spicy and colorful, because this makes a difference. People are generally not allergic to spices and herbs, with very few exceptions. And it does make a difference how it looks on your plate. So I'm on a mission, as I said. I'm particularly worried about the kids, because the kids are the ones that I hear more and more stories about, that they become sick. I had almost 40 years before it hit me. But the kids, this summer, the fruit season, I hear a lot of children having problems with tingling lips and tongues when they eat the fruit. Actually, the fruit you buy in a supermarket should probably be lying in water, soaking clean water, for about 20 minutes before you start eating it. That shouldn't be necessary. Why? So this is what I want you to do. My short tips and tricks is, if you feel very often bloated and uncomfortable, and believe me, I ended up buying an awful lot of clothes all over the world while I was traveling. My carefully curated outfit suddenly didn't fit the day after because I was bloated or had that one glass of wine or whatever. That made me sick, because I'm also allergic to sulfate. But there are other people in the same situation, and it should not be, oh, you bloat and that's it. We bloat enough as women due to menstruation and children and all sorts of other things. Let not food be part of that. So the tips are, for a week, write down everything you eat. Don't care about the amounts. I don't care about the calories. That's your case, your problem. I do care about trying to help you to see a pattern that might make you sick. For me, it was having bread at every meal. And once I stopped doing that and cut out the wheat from my diet, I feel so much better. But I still have to think about it and plan everything. And so will you if you don't act early enough. The other tip I have is that if you are very often constipated, try cutting out milk products, including ice cream, for a week's time and see how it goes. You have to be diligent. And what I'm trying to help with is to make sure that you have enough energy to start that doctor's journey, because we do need the doctors to help us find out. Knowledge and knowing what you are reacting to is half the battle won. It really is. But a couple of tips is with the purpose of empowering you to take control over your own health and the health of your family. Because it's also a matter of looking at what will happen to the future generations of eaters if we keep going this highly processed food. It might be convenient, but have you actually checked what is in there? Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it has and will be helpful to just a few of you, but I am looking for a dialogue because I really do want to have our digestive health on the table. It can be our best friend because it is trying to communicate with us, and that's what it actually does when you are feeling bloated and it goes do inside your tummy when you're trying to do something clever. But it can also be your worst enemy. So please take care of everyone around you, take care of yourselves, and join me on Any Allergy Food. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us today. It's interesting how a lot of us eat, but very unconsciously.
We do.
And we don't realize that our food is our medicine. And when you're aware of what you're consuming, I really like the idea of making a note of every single thing that you eat and then reflecting back, because we eat unconsciously. We pick up a piece of fruit, we eat bread, and bread is such a staple now for most people.
It is. And it is actually, when I see some of these online cooks, and I love watching them because food for me, I read cookbooks for pleasure. Don't get me wrong. I love being in my kitchen. But when I see a lot of them, especially these modern vegan and vegetarian cooks, a lot of them, the amount of flour they use in their cooking to substitute, so making things bind together and look like bread and make something, the amount of wheat. And wheat in itself, the wheat we get in the supermarket, was only actually developed around 47, so 1947, after World War II, to feed all these hungries. All the hungry people after the World War needed food. So they found a strain of wheat that could be handling all the diseases that were coming wheat's way. But it also took out a lot of the nutrients. So there is nothing in this wheat. And if everyone is not careful, a lot of more people will have that problem.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a pleasure to see how many gluten-free, how many lactose-free, how many allergy documentation we get now. Here in Luxembourg, where I live, we have restaurants. All the restaurants have to label the allergens in their food.
Okay.
And it is a huge helping hand, but it does mean the difference. When I go to a French restaurant, I can maybe eat 5% of the menu because they use wheat in everything. When I go to a Thai restaurant, I can eat 95% of the food on the menu. So it is about consciousness. It really is. But I agree with you. It is our medicine, and we are not conscious about it enough. But also labels are becoming complicated because it's words that we don't. I mean, we can't. You shouldn't have a chemistry doctorate to be able to read your food labels when you go shopping. It doesn't work. So it needs to be simple and understandable.
So you shared with us your 10-year downward spiral after that first incident. What kept you going when you felt like nothing was working? You must have felt pretty crazy going to doctor after doctor. You knew something was wrong. Your body was telling you something was wrong. But what kept you going?
Being busy.
Okay.
Because you know what happens? We just talked about, you take on these projects and you are having a blast, and I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning most Mondays. I knew the people in the airport. I got a hug when I got to the airport for security checks. I mean, it is a small airport, but still, I knew these people better than anyone else. And I had fun doing it. So you take one day at a time, and then at some point, your body just will not cope anymore. I was eating dried fruit. I thought I was doing so well. So I was a lot in London, and I ate dried bananas. I thought they were so clever. Because it was giving me sugar, it was giving me fat, and it was something I could eat, I thought, except that dried bananas are not only just concentrated sugar, so you can end up getting in trouble for that, but they are also washed and treated with sulfates, because otherwise, of course, they would have gone brown. Of course they would. So I got sicker and sicker from that, and I had no clue. I had no clue. So that's really, I think you just can only see it in hindsight.
Yeah.
The kids need you, your family needs you, your parents are getting older and they need your help, and you just need something. So you eat, you drink an extra cup of coffee, you drink something you shouldn't be drinking, you eat something on the go. Yes.
It just gets worse, it compounds. Now, many people confuse food allergies with intolerances and sensitivities.
Yeah.
How do you explain the difference in very simple terms?
Very simple. It is that the doctors will only be looking for allergies, because that's when your body can no longer handle that compound, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you're reacting, and there is no way back. You cannot stop that. Intolerances means that even a little bit of that food will actually impact your health negatively. So if you're always sniffling, you could be eating something that is negatively impacting your health. And intolerances and sensitivities is based on the amount. So maybe you can have 1 scoop of ice cream and you're okay, even if you are lactose sensitivity. But if you have 2 scoops or 3 scoops, that's when you start. And that's why the patent and you trying to just for a week documenting is so helpful, because the doctors don't look at sensitivities or intolerances. They only look at the allergens. And that means that you get the lactose test, and no, it's negative. You're not creating antibodies,
Right.
but you could actually be intolerant to lactose.
It's just amazing. Now, you describe yourself as a food allergic person.
Mm-hmm.
How does that identity shape the way that you navigate daily life, both personally and socially?
That's the hard part. You need to find a tribe that says, no problem, let's go have that Thai food, or eat Indian food for dinner half the time, or my husband is my support. He lets me control the kitchen. I don't cook non-allergic friendly food in my house. I also, for guests, I only cook food that I can eat. I've stopped trying to be polite about it, but you need to have that supporting circle. And of course, I'm always a problem to invite, which was another reason I created Any Allergy Food, because everyone was always asking, oh, but what can you eat? And I got a bit tired of writing what I couldn't eat, because actually I can eat all meat, all vegetables, rice, potatoes, everything of that kind. The place that I have problems is when it starts to be sort of those outlying items. So my dinner normally stops at dessert. I don't get desserts anymore unless I create them myself.
Okay.
But I think the most important thing, apart from finding your tribe and the people who will support you, It is
Yeah.
to be controlled and be be not making excuses for yourself.
Energetic. Yes.
You
Yeah.
have to say, no, I cannot eat here, or no, I cannot have a Coke, or no, I cannot participate in this. And you need to be, I think age helps as well. You need to be relatively rude about it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be rude, but I mean that you need to take and put your health first.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, do you think that doctors and the health system are adequately prepared to deal with food allergies today? Or is there still a big gap?
I genuinely think that the doctors that specializes in this field, they are doing a marvelous job.
Mm,
And I think we are heading towards a time, but it's a long time coming,
mm,
where we do look at people more holistically. But what I would like to see happening is I would like us to discuss poo. When we go to our normal doctor, no
mm,
one asks about your digestion. Why?
mm.
It has to be such an important part of whether you're feeling good, whether you are mentally feeling good, because 90% of what's happening in your body is decided by your digestive system.
Yes.
So if you are feeling sluggish, you have no energy, it's very, very difficult to feel powerful. And
Yeah.
especially when I discuss with women, and we are all talking about empowering women, and I think it is very, very important, but we also need to empower ourselves. Power is something we also take. And it starts somewhere with taking the power and the control of our own health, to me. And having a doctor that actually are willing to look at you logistics, sort of holistically, is going to be so important. We need the old medicine and the wise women back, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so true. That is so true. Now, what advice would you give someone who's newly diagnosed with a food allergy and is feeling overwhelmed in the supermarket aisle?
Oh God, poor people. I spent
Mm,
6 months looking at the limitations rather than the opportunities, so I know that feeling. And this is where I really offer individual support. Here, the labels are in French, German, and Flemish. So and that means it's even smaller than usual. So you start reading them and you go, oh, what can I eat? A bit of trial and error, and being careful. If there is this whole clean eating movement. So if there is something on the label that you don't understand, you should not be eating it.
okay, stay away from it. As simple as that. Wow.
Sadly.
Yeah, it is sad. Now, many parents worry about their children developing allergies. What practical steps can families take to reduce the risks and spot the symptoms early?
Speaking with the children. I'm not a educated person at all, as we
Mhm.
talked about. I come from the fintech background, but
Yeah.
trial and error showed me that it does have something to do with looking at the kids, and kids can be, of course, things they don't like and things they like to eat. But maybe some of the questions that should be asked is, why don't you like to eat it?
Mm,
How does it make you feel? Oh, I don't like the color, or I don't like the texture. But can we prepare the food that it's a little bit more appetizing? But also, is there actually something? Do they start feeling concentrated? Do they get hyper and uncomfortable? For me, for example, my sulfate allergy makes my ear burn and I get completely red ears and my blood pressure goes wildly up.
mm,
People react differently. Allergies is not just not being able to breathe and end in hospital, but it
mm.
is also the subtle signs. So knowing your kids and talking to them, I think, is the most important thing.
That is just amazing and wonderful. Now, you mentioned that fruit should sometimes be soaked before eating because of the pesticides and chemicals. How can consumers balance convenience with safety?
I do believe that we need to vote with our money. And I do think that we actually need to take a good hard look at the convenience of supermarkets. And maybe look, still a lot of places, there are still old-fashioned markets where they
Yes.
have not just bio fruit and vegetables, but where the farmers do come. So farmers markets where it is directly from the farmers and it's not been stored in a supermarket for 4 months.
Okay.
So I think that's one thing. And I think the other thing, I really want people to think a little bit more about eating seasonal. I grew up in a country where their season is damn short and where certainly you would not be able to grow avocados or mangoes. And I don't mind you flying them around the world as such, but I tell you that I sometimes get a mango here outside of season and it is rotting from the inside. It is really so disgusting because it was never ripened on the tree.
Yeah.
So I do think we have to ask ourselves, can we eat a little bit more seasonal?
Yeah, I have to say, having grown up in Africa, picking fruit off a tree,
Yes.
I became very, very spoiled in the understanding of what is good fruit and what isn't.
Exactly.
I remember when I came to live in London for the first time, I bought an apple and I bit into this apple and it tasted nothing like the apples that I knew. They looked nice on the outside, obviously genetically modified, stuff had been done to it, but it tasted so horrible. I just couldn't understand how people could eat fruit like that. So you're right. When fruit is ripened on the tree, it's a completely different experience.
Actually, there are some people that have started talking about that the fruit that has not ripened on the tree is not actually good for you because it's nothing like sugar water. All the antioxidant and the good stuff in fruit for people is actually going out the window. So maybe you should go to the local farmer's market and buy those apples there that you know is coming off the tree and not buy the ones that you find in the supermarket. And I know it's convenient. I mean, you are on the way home, the kids need picking up, you have to go home quickly, you buy something and you buy it all in one place.
Yeah.
I see it all the time, but I do think that we somehow need to have that dialogue so that the food we eat is better for us. It is so important.
Yeah, no, it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And it's just interesting how people who have grown up in countries where you're used to buying fruit in a supermarket, they don't actually realize the impact.
And they don't know the taste.
Yeah.
They don't know what it should taste like, which is the good thing about everyone traveling a lot more than they used to. So people are getting more aware of, okay, the mango I buy in my supermarket tastes of nothing but sugar. The mango I get in the market when I'm in India or wherever tastes completely differently. And I think that's the good thing about our global world, that we do get to experience and hopefully learn something from each other this way, including how we cook stuff, how we cook our vegetables. Those are the kind of things where I'm really a pusher for mixing all sorts of different cuisines to make your own food more interesting, but also more healthy for you, even when you do have food sensitivities, intolerances, or allergies. It is possible.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, to go back to talking about, you talked about the social dilemma of food allergies. Having to decline invitations or being limited at restaurants, how has that affected your own relationships with family and with friends?
I'm probably the only one in the world who loses weight at Christmas because in Denmark, the whole menu is something I can't have. So I end up with a slice of turkey and 2 boiled potatoes. There are people who don't understand, and I don't expect my 93-year-old father-in-law to be willing to change the Christmas menu for my sake. So, of course, it changes things. It does mean that if you're not careful, you avoid situations where there are food on the table because it's not that you don't like it, huh? So what I do is whenever I go anywhere where food is involved, I always have in my pocket fresh carrot that I have in little packages, and some dried bread, so knäckebröd, that is gluten free, and I always have a gluten free cookie in my bag. So I'm carrying around this relatively big bag because then I know I have something, and it needs to be something crunchy and something a little bit sweet, because that will satisfy that you don't feel left out quite as much. So that is something I always do when I'm going somewhere. It does require planning, more planning. It's getting better, but it does. And then, honestly, if people have no understanding for it, then I just can't participate. And I think that's the possibility. But it's also become much easier because more and more people think it's great that you go out for a walk and a talk instead of sitting down at a table and eating. And I think that we all need the extra exercise and fresh air. And I think that has actually, that whole thing and that consciousness is actually very helpful, not just for people like me, but think about diabetic people, people who are overweight and want to do something about the problem. There are all sorts of things and all sorts of situations where food is not the easiest thing to go about.
That's true. Now, my last question for you is, what is your vision for anyallergyfood.com? And how do you hope it will empower individuals living with allergies worldwide?
I want a dialogue. That's my hope with the site. I thought I was going to create this online environment where I would sit and put new things out all the time, and I get really bored with the technology really fast. So I'm hoping for a dialogue. I would love to see other people contribute with recipes or ideas and tips and tricks for people. Right. I'm hoping to do more workshops, or both in-person workshops here at my kitchen table. I finally have a big kitchen enough for it. But also online workshops where people can exchange ideas, because we do live in different cultures. Yeah. And that is something. So I do see it, hopefully at some point, as a growing network of people and growing network of contributors. That is not just me and my view or my things, but that we will all have a challenging possibility of communicating and growing the community. So yes, I do want it to be a global movement to better the food we eat and talk about the fact. I recently heard that there is this whole movement on TikTok where women comes out and say stuff like, or young girls come out and say stuff like, it's normal to be bloated. And then they celebrate that it's normal to be bloated. And it is normal to feel bloated if you have overeaten. But it's not normal that your digestive system is not yours to control, but that it has a mind completely of its own. So I do think that scares it scares me a bit. So those are the conversations I would like to get rid of. Some of those, oh, it's normal, because it's not.
It's not. It's not. Well, you've got your work cut out for you, Charlotte.
So please join me, help me.
Well, we're here to help spread your message, to amplify your voice through our platform. It's been such a pleasure meeting you and being able to support you in this small way. And I'm hoping that when we do have our in-person events, we'll be able to connect with you in person as well.
Somewhere in the world, we absolutely will. But I just wanted to say one thing for you, because I've been listening in on some of the stories over this last week. Okay. And I am in awe of all the wonderful stories out there. We can create that village feel if we all make an effort and are willing to also put our vulnerabilities out there, because there is so much inspiration to be had from other people, not just women, but especially women, the wise women of all ages that have overcome something. I really, really value that. So I have to say, I've learned a lot this past week.
That is just awesome. And speaking of that, I'm going to put a little plug here, and maybe you can share it in your community as well. Every year when we have our summit, we look for a project that we can get behind. Our focus is normally around women and children, the elderly, the disabled. And our recipient of choice this year is an amazing grandmother who's based in New South Wales, Australia. Her name is Bernice Williams. Bernice has gone through several rounds with cancer, and her husband has had several rounds with cancer as well. And they've reached a point where the Australian health system cannot support them anymore. They have to pay for all of her treatment. So, unfortunately, she had secured a bone marrow transplant for her leukemia, was supposed to go in for a procedure in 10 days' time on the 10th of September. And now the donor has pulled out. So we are trying to help her raise $20,000. We are at $9,500 right now. I'm asking you, Charlotte, and anybody else who's out there who's listening, to please go online and donate whatever you can. She looks after two of her grandchildren. Unfortunately, one of her children is not able to look after her kids. So she has a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. She's 60 years old. Both she and her husband are ill and really needing support from our community. So I will be sharing this link to all of our speakers via email. Every single cent counts. I think when women get together and we lift each other up, we can do some amazing things. So Charlotte, thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing your amazing story. Don't tire. Your work is needed right now.
Thank
Thank
you. And the same back. Absolutely. Good luck for the rest of the day. I'm sure it'll be exciting. I will listen in more later. It's been a pleasure to talk to you all.
Thank you so much. We will let Charlotte go and we will move on to our next speaker. Wow, her story is attracting some phenomenal women. And I get the pleasure to introduce them, to amplify their voices, and bring them to the world in a very small way through the HerStory platform. So we have a beautiful woman who's coming from the UK. Joyty is the founder of Not Another London, a spiritual brand that is reimagining how fashion and wellness can meet. Her signature recycled cotton t-shirts are paired with interchangeable crystal patches. So you can wear the energy that you need, whether it's for confidence or to be calm or for clarity. After 2 decades in the fashion industry, she now is coming to us to share the story of this amazing brand and her journey of building a brand that's rooted in self-expression, confidence, and ritual. So welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. It really excites me when I find somebody who's doing something that is changing the way that we think about fashion. So the stage is yours, Joyty. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. What a lovely introduction that was. Hello to everyone. So I just wanted to talk to everyone about my journey here, and hopefully impart some wisdom for everyone. So I started Not Another London. I came from a very troubled childhood. At the time, I didn't know any different. It was just my childhood. It was as I grew up, I realized how bad it was. And then upon reflection in recent weeks, I've realized my career has also followed the same pattern. So like Gertrude said, I work in the fashion industry. I've been there for 20 years and I've loved it. But the thing that I found really difficult is that fashion, like my childhood, was all about the show. It was all about the glitz and the glamour. And a lot of it was thought about, you couldn't be true to yourself. And I found that really, really difficult. I found that my voice was diminished. Even though people said that they were open to hearing my thoughts, I quickly found that they weren't. They wanted to do things their way, and that's absolutely fine. But when I started to struggle in the fashion industry, it was probably just before COVID, where this buzzword of sustainability came out. And it never ceases to amaze me how many brands call themselves sustainable at the moment because they think that that's what customers want. However, behind closed doors is a very, very different, it's a very, very different kind of situation. And internally, I've really, really struggled with that because I believe that honesty is so powerful and so key. And because of this whole secret and behind closed doors and twisting for marketing, I was starting to have a struggle within myself. And so I actually went on an advisor freelance basis just before COVID. And I thought people would listen more because they were hiring me for my experience, but I found that they weren't. And I thought to myself one day, I'm going to launch a brand that aligns with my values. I want it to be super clear, super transparent. I'm sure I'm going to make mistakes along the way, but I want to be honest about them. But I also wanted to have a brand that was a bit more fun again. And I think as a consumer, you see the outside of fashion, which is super, it looks creative, it looks fun. But the truth inside of the industry is if you work with wholesale partnerships, you're governed by their timelines. It's a real, real struggle. It's if you deliver a day late, you are at risk of getting your whole order cancelled with them. And that could be 20, 30,000 pounds. It's a lot of money for small brands. And I've seen brands being driven into the ground because of this. So that was one of the key things for me, is like, I wanted it to be a creative brand for not another. I wanted it to be organic. I wanted it to be flowing, free flowing. And part of that was reclaiming my voice, which had been diminished through my childhood and through my work. And I'm still finding it. I'm not going to lie. We've been going just over a year and I'm still trying to find my voice and my niche. It's hard because I've spent so long not having a voice. Something like this is super difficult for me to do. But I'm really proud of where the brand is. And like Gertrude said, we use recycled cotton because I want the brand to give back more than it takes from the world. So our recycled cotton comes from post waste. So after brands have placed orders and they've made their production, all those little scraps of fabric that would go in the bin or get burnt, I take them and we recycle them and make new cotton fabric. It's mixed with organic cotton, and that's the science bit. It's to do with the length of the fibers, and it is to do with the quality. I want my t-shirts to be durable, and they are. I accidentally, when I was ill, put mine in the tumble dryer, and I'm sure, as everyone knows, t-shirts never survive that, and mine did. I was super happy about it. It was a test that I wasn't planning on making, but I'm glad I know. And then the whole part of the crystals, like crystals are something that I've been drawn to as a child. I've loved them just for the pretty shiny things that they are. And I knew that when I launched my brand, I really wanted a point of difference, and well-being and energy was really something I was lacking and I wanted to put into my brand. And it actually came to me in a very organic way when I'd randomly walked into a crystal shop and I was talking to the owner just about life stuff. And I'd seen like this box of like beautiful like lilacs, yellows and pink stones. And I just picked them up and I was playing with them in my hand as we were talking. And she stopped and she smiled at me and she was like, "How do you feel?" And I stopped and thought about it. And I was like, I actually feel a wave of calmness, which is not what I was feeling when I walked in here. And she was like, yeah, what you're holding is amethyst, citrine, and rose quartz crystals. And she was like, it's really good for bringing stillness back into your mind and kind of calming anxiousness. And it was like, wow, I bought those crystals. I would love to tell you that the penny dropped at that point where I was like, I'm going to combine this with clothes. It didn't. It took a good few weeks of me carrying these crystals around to really kind of put two and two together. And it was like, well, I don't think certainly for the brands that I've worked with, it's never happened. Like we've never combined crystals before. And it got me thinking of why. And I realized that a lot of the people that I was working with at that point in time, they'd be pulling crystals out of their pockets or they'd be falling out of their bras when we were in fit sessions. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why are we not wearing these crystals with pride? And it's like, I know that you can get crystal jewelry. There is a certain look to it. And if it's not your taste, then I don't see a lot of people wearing it. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to create some crystal patches. We call them mood patches. So we've got one for serenity. We've got one for prosperity, good luck. We've got a love patch. And all the crystals and all the designs on there are used to kind of like harness this energy. So it brings a bit more playfulness back into the fashion industry. Also, you can swap your patches depending on your mood, depending on the energy that you want to attract and bring to the day. It just also prolongs the life of your t-shirt and also elevates your look. So for me, it just seemed perfect. So yeah, really, really excited. We're doing our first pop-up events in London this weekend. And yeah, that's where we are. But it was really important for me to kind of get people to think about where their clothes come from, what their clothes are made from. I want people to have really good energy when they wear our clothes. There's a lot of research about like the vibration of fabrics against our bodies. Like cotton is not the highest, but it is up there. It's very aligned with the human body, whereas things like polyester are not, which is often why sometimes like people find that they smell more when they wear polyester. So it's a very big subject. And I'm super happy to talk about it. I guess let me know if you've got any questions from what I've said. Sorry, Gertrude, I can't hear you.
Didn't realize I was muted. I said, this is absolutely wonderful and inspiring to see what you've done with your brand, you know, at a time where people are consuming fashion in a very unconscious way.
Yeah.
We buy clothes within 2-3 weeks. We're tired of it. We're bored. We move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Now, you worked with iconic fashion houses.
Yes.
What inspired you to pivot from high fashion into creating a spiritual brand like Not Another London. And where did that name come from? What does Not Another London mean?
So Not Another London was a name that came to me years ago, 10 years ago. And if I'm being totally honest, it was basically because I knew back then I wanted to create something, but I didn't want it to be the same as everything else.
Right.
And that's what I meant by Not Another. It's like, I feel like the society pushes you into boxes, especially as women. And it's like, no, enough is enough. So that's where it comes from. And it also makes me laugh. Like, we have meetings and it's called Not Another Meeting. And it's just fun. And that's what I want the brand to be. So yes, I've worked with a lot of mainly British designers, across high street through to luxury designers, both men's and women's wear. And it's been an experience and I've loved it. But what I was finding was there was a toxicity around every role. And it's a really hard thing to explain, but I guess every brand I've worked with has its own kind of set of behavioral issues, shall we say. And it very much does come from the top. And I have this belief that in the industry, because it is about the glitz and the glamour, we get told, as like people who work under these people, we get told what to say, and it doesn't align with who we are. And because I am quite a truthful, honest person, I found that really, really difficult, where I'm like, let's communicate, let's be honest with these people, let's tell them their delivery is delayed. And it's like, no, we can't do that. And I think that's where it came to a head for me. As I went into freelance roles, I worked with smaller brands and startup brands, and I was trying to veer people away from the conventional norms, but they were trying to be like the big labels. And I'll never forget the day when one client was like, I'm a sustainable brand. And my first question is always, what makes you sustainable?
Right.
Because it's a massive umbrella. I could talk about this for hours. But she was like, because we use natural fabrics. And I was like, silk comes from a silkworm. You boil it alive. And I was like, so what part of that is kindness to you?
Yeah.
And she didn't know. And that shocked me. And so I also want Not Another to be a platform for people to ask me questions. Like, I want consumers to be educated on where their fabrics come from, how much water it takes to produce just one t-shirt. It's incredible. It's like 17,000 liters of water to make one t-shirt. And by using recycled t-shirt, we've reduced that water by less than half. It's still a lot. It's still a lot in the scheme of things. But yeah.
How incredible. Absolutely incredible. Oh, man. So one of the things that's interesting is what I want to know is what has been the most surprising or challenging moments in trying to find your niche as a brand owner, especially after serving years, feeling like you didn't have a voice?
I think that's probably it. It's finding the voice, finding my voice, and being able to articulate what I'm feeling.
Right.
Because I have this gut instinct of what I should be doing, but to explain it to someone, I find it really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm getting better at it. But there's so many aspects to it. It's like the well-being with the crystal energy. It's also the fabric, the sustainability side of it. I want to educate people on a t-shirt can last you 6 months, a year.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just last you 3 washes before it gets destroyed. And it is a lot of feedback I've had. It was important for me for the t-shirts to be under £100, which feels like a lot of money. And I hear that. But as soon as someone touches the fabric or tries it on, they're like, I get it. We've got used to these like £10, $10 t-shirts that just see you through a couple of weeks and then it's ruined.
That's really nice when people can see the difference. So talking about your textiles, you're using this recycled cotton made from scraps that would otherwise have gone to waste.
Yeah.
Impact do you hope this practice has on the fashion industry's approach to sustainability?
So I want it to become normal. And I feel it sounds very negative, but sometimes I wonder if the fashion industry is too far gone. I know that there are small brands like myself that are doing really good things, but I also believe that the key to to changing the industry will come from the consumers, where they start demanding, I want to know exactly where my clothes are coming from. I want to know exactly what you do with them if you don't sell them. And I think that is the key to change the industry.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Now, let's talk about the crystals. The story of walking into the crystal shop and feeling calmer after holding certain stones was a turning point. Can you share how that moment influenced the way that you think about energy in fashion?
Yeah, I mean, it was a real pivotal moment because crystals went from these shiny, pretty things to actually these really powerful things. I probably should explain at that point in time, I was also having a very kind of crossroad moment where I was like, do I want to be doing fashion anymore? Like, I'm falling out of love with it. And I was actually on my way to a summer class that I was doing just to kind of get my feelers out there to see what else I enjoyed. But it's sent me on a personal journey where I look into crystals and I'm seeing all these people talk about crystals and what they've brought to their life. And it's like, it's funny because sometimes I talk to people and they're like, I don't believe in that stuff. And I'm like, but you do, because you've told me 3 months ago you've been given, for example, I can't remember what it was, a jade, I don't know, monkey or animal from like a family relative. And since you've got that, you've met the love of your life. And jade is known to be bringing like good fortune. And this was a relationship that this person wanted for so long. And I'm like, it can't just be coincidence always. So yeah, it's really shaped the brand. It's really shaped me. And it's like, we talk about food that we eat to make ourselves feel better. We talk about exercise, or we talk about, I don't know, the beauty products that we put on our skin.
Yes.
But actually, some like clothing is against your skin all day, every day. And there is this whole thing with Shein and, you know, the fast fashion companies. My actual problem with these companies is because they don't test their product, there are all these harmful chemicals in the dyes and the metals that they use. and that seeps into your skin, and it can like illnesses. And the more regulated brands have to show certification for this, that their dyes don't contain like this certain chemical. And this, from knowing that and putting two and two together, I'm like, it is so, so important. And I did this research and I was like, I know I've never worked with any designer that has ever used crystals. And I was like, but surely someone has. They all use like gems and diamantes, but what about the real crystals? And the closest thing that I could find was Victoria Beckham had done a collection with hidden pockets so that people could carry crystals around with them.
Right.
I was like, that's super interesting because she's well known, she's an A-list, and yet she is also hiding crystals. And it's like, why don't we just be proud of what we're feeling, what we want to manifest, what we want to attract in life? So yeah, it's been a really big moment for me.
Fascinating world you live in. Now, my last two questions are a bit of a time experiment.
Okay.
First one, I'm going to teleport you back to the beginning. That young woman who stepped out of high fashion, decided that she was going to carve her own way.
Yeah.
Just in case there's a young designer who's listening to us right now, is thinking about the right way to do it. If you could go back and give yourself 3 nuggets of wisdom, based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
Okay, my 3 nuggets of information. Follow your gut feeling. There are going to be people out there that advise you differently. If you want to do something, you research it and you go out there and do it. The world is such a big place. There is space for everyone, and you will find people that support what you do. My second bit of advice is probably a little bit linked, but have confidence in it. Get 100% behind it. Don't doubt yourself, because if you doubt yourself, other people will feed off that energy and start doubting you. And my third bit of information is, my nugget of information is, do your research. Like, starting off a fashion brand can be costly, but there are also ways to do it on a budget. And that's how I did Not Another. I was like, no, I set myself my budget at the beginning, and I was like, I'm going to launch this brand within that. And I did it. It was hard. I had to do a lot of it myself, but I've learned the basics. I know how to build a basic website. So try and do everything yourself before you kind of get anyone else involved to do it. You can ask for help. You can get people to show you, but I think it's super important as a brand owner to really understand the operations of your business. So yeah.
Wonderful tips. Last question is futuristic this time. I'm going to teleport you into the future.
Yeah.
And we are going to go and have a conversation with a 90-year-old you.
Okay.
This wise woman who has led you to this point, has taught you everything about sustainable fashion. If you could go and have a conversation with that wise woman, what would you say to her when you finally meet her? And let me explain why I like asking women this question.
Okay.
I believe the wise woman is already in all of us.
Yeah.
That we are born with a knowing of the right things we're supposed to do to leave this planet a better place than we found it.
Yeah.
And she comes and whispers sometimes. You were in high fashion. I'm sure you were making a lot of money, but something told you, this isn't the right thing. And
Exactly.
you took a turn and you listened to those whispers.
Yeah.
So, from that avenue, what will you say to your wise woman when you finally meet her?
When I meet her, firstly, I would like to say I actually believe in this too. I don't think of her as the older version of me, but more like the all-knowing me. But I would say to her, thank you. Thank you for giving me her whisperings. And I would also probably say to her, well done. Well done for staying true to herself, finding her voice, and speaking even when she thought no one else was listening, and speaking for herself. And I think that's probably a big lesson that I'm still learning. But yeah, it would be a lot of gratitude, I think.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, I like to remind women that we need to trust ourselves.
Yeah,
A lot of times we look outside of ourselves for answers, for solutions, but the solutions are inside. And it's when you go into that meditation and your prayer
yeah,
time, your quiet time, that you tune into the energy of who you are becoming. So I
exactly.
have a little game that I play. I talk to her every single day. If I get stuck on something I'm working on, I do my meditation and I go to sleep with a very simple question like, so what is the next step?
Yeah,
And I just sleep on that. And then I'll
yeah.
wake up in the morning, I'm in the shower and I have those light bulb moments and I know exactly what I need to do to
Ex-
execute.
yes, I know that very, very well.
Well, sometimes I share with other people what I'm working on. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle. This person will give me this piece and the next one and
Yeah,
the next one. By the end of the week, it all comes together and it's so beautiful. I
exactly.
know exactly what my next steps should be. So thank you, thank you, thank you for trusting your wise woman and helping leave the planet a better place than we found it.
Yeah, that's all I want.
It's been an
Thank
absolute
you.
pleasure sharing you with our community, Joyty. Thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to say my goodbyes, but don't go away because we need to discuss our next step.
Okay.
So thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're not just a speaking platform. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are a fashion designer and you want to create a sustainable brand, here's an example of how to do it. Trust yourself, do your research, know what kind of fabrics you're using. It's not just about using cotton, it's where is that cotton coming from? Can you use recycled material and stop the landfills that are filling up with clothes that we consume and dispose? I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another group of amazing women. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And bye for now. Thanks again, Joyce.
Thank you.